Today, for Monday, March 30th, we hear from the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verses 1 through 11. But before we enter into that Gospel passage, I think we want to step back and talk a little bit about the distinction between judgment and condemnation. In order to do that, we need to go to another Gospel passage. So I want to read from you from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verses 1 through 5. And it begins, Jesus said, "Stop judging, that you may not be judged. For as you judge, you will be judged, and the measure for which you measure will be measured out against you. Why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, 'Let me remove the splinter from your eye,' while the wooden beam is in your eye? You hypocrite! Remove the wooden beam from your own eye first, then you will see clearly to remove the splinter from your brother's eye." And a similar passage can be found in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 6, beginning with verse 37. So Jesus, again, gives us very clear direction that when it comes to judgment, we need to be very careful. And let's remind ourselves what a judgment is. A judgment is the ability to make considered decisions or to come to sensible conclusions. Again, the ability to make considered decisions or come to sensible conclusions. So what's clear from the Gospel of Matthew is that when we judge, again, when we make those considered decisions and come to sensible conclusions, we can't go over to condemnation. Because condemnation is literally the act of condemning someone to punishment. So Christ is reminding us that when we make our judgments, we can't move to condemnation. Meaning that when we look at a situation and we try to figure out what's going on, we can't automatically move to the phase of punishment or condemnation. Literally saying that that person, that situation is horrible, bad, will never be good. And again, you fill in the blank. Because many times in our lives, what we do is we immediately go to condemnation. But again, we got to be very careful with that. Because the measure for which we measure will be measured out against us. And again, that's just something we have to just understand and truly appreciate in our lives. Especially now, when the world is upside down, when we're struggling day and day to figure out what's going on, we truly have to be patient and kind and loving and truly help each other through these difficulties. Because right now, can any of us make any good judgments on what should happen? And furthermore, I hope none of us are making condemnations saying that, you know what, you are blank. Because all of us, again, are trying to figure out what we're supposed to do day after day, hour by hour, in response to all the difficulties we are experiencing. So again, Jesus warns us that we have to make sure that we are not moving from judgment to condemnation. That there's times where we have to truly make considered decisions and come to sensible conclusions. But again, we are not judge, jury, and executioner. What we have to do is literally just try to provide each other the grace and mercy and peace that Christ modeled for us to each person we run into. And I think that helps us to understand our gospel today. Because the gospel for today comes again from the 8th chapter of the Gospel of John. And it's the woman caught in adultery. And the words are very powerful. So again, I just want to repeat part of the gospel passage so we can enter into the context. Jesus went up to the Mount of Olives, but early in the morning he arrived again in the temple area, and all the people started coming to him. And he sat down and taught them. Then the scribes and Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery and made her stand in the middle. They said to him, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. Now in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. So what do you say?" They said this to test him, so they could have some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down and began to write on the ground with his finger. But when they continued asking him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." And again he bent down and wrote on the ground. In response, they went away one by one, beginning with the elders. Now, the gospel passage is more complex probably than what any of us can understand, because again, the elders of the people of Israel were trying to entrap Jesus. They were trying to make sure that they could get what they wanted from the situation. But at the end of the day, there was a woman who was caught in adultery, who was condemned to death. But Jesus, by his very words, was able to save her, because she would have been stoned to death if he not had acted. And again, in our own lives, we can't move to condemnation. We can't move to a place where we're constantly saying to ourselves, that person deserves to be punished. That person is cut off. That person is whatever. Again, fill in the blank. But again, when we have to make judgments, when we have to make decisions and come to conclusions, hopefully we can look at people as Christ looks at them, as he looked at this woman caught in adultery. Because the rest of the story goes like this. So when he was left alone with the woman before him, then Jesus straightened up and said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She replied, "No one, sir." Then Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, do not sin anymore." Because right now, brothers and sisters, I think we truly cannot condemn anyone. We cannot be in the position where, amidst all the uncertainty and difficulties and frustrations we're experiencing, if we're going to be part of the solution, we can't go to the act of condemnation. And furthermore, again, hopefully we're not judging people too severely, and we're just trying to love and support each other the best way we can. Because if we do that, not only will we recover quicker, but I have a feeling that the Lord will teach us how he's calling us to deeper love and appreciation for the people around us. So please know my continued thoughts and prayers for all of you, and if you need anything from the parish office, please don't hesitate to let us know. Our Lady of Victory, pray for us.